Well, Tom Coyle here, everybody, and reflecting on the week, on the events of the week here, specifically the January 6th storming of the Capitol. I wanted to offer some thoughts here, and like everything else, it's identifying the right problem. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of people talking about how these racists and fascists stormed the Capitol building, and my concern here is we're making the same mistake we made after 9/11. So let's talk about 9/11 first. After 9/11 happened, you heard a lot of our political leadership saying they attacked us because they hate freedom, that these were cowards, they hate our freedom, and that we have women drive and women go to school and that we are free, and that completely missed the mark. It ignores the actual belief of those who did the hijacking of 9/11 and those who follow the extremist ideology under the umbrella of Al-Qaeda. They believe the West is in a global war with Islam. And they cherry-picked certain points that reinforce that perception. They focus on U.S. military actions in the Middle East, and they totally ignore things like defending the Kuwaitis against Iraq, defending Muslims in Bosnia and Kosovo with bombing attacks against Christian Serbs. They ignore that, and they talk about all the different things. And you start looking at it, it can make a lot of sense. Just look at recent history, for example. Throughout the 80s, getting involved in Lebanon, and then Libya in the 1980s. Gaddafi was the bin Laden of the day, the line of death, the mad dog, that's what Ronald Reagan called him. And then, obviously, the current war on terror. Everyone looks like, look at all the West is doing against Muslim countries, and it reinforces a point. Everyone is against Islam. And to save Islam, you have to rally to our cause, to rally against the aggressors. This is not about freedom. If it was, why aren't they attacking Switzerland? Why aren't they attacking any of the other Nordic democracies? They're attacking because of policies that they are perceiving to be harmful to them, which takes us back to what we saw on January 6th. Dismissing them as simply a bunch of racists and fascists completely misrepresents the problem. Let's not forget Donald Trump had more votes among African Americans and Latinos than any modern Republican presidential nominee. This is not a race thing. Now, are there racist people who vote for Trump? Absolutely. Are there fascist people who vote for Trump? Absolutely. But if you start talking to the core members of the people who were in that Capitol building, they believe they are the last bastions of freedom. That's why they're carrying the "Don't Tread on Me" flags, the American flag. They actually believe they are trying to save our republic, and they're surprised the rest of us aren't grateful for them for doing it. Why? Because they've been listening to the airwaves and the internet and all these things, the QAnon conspiracies, about how this global cabal is trying to create this whole globalist system of government to keep them down, keep America down, tramp on our Constitution, and if you vote for the Democrats, we're going to turn into Venezuela. That's what they believe. That's what they've been hearing. And the fact of the matter is, both parties have been part of this larger context of, if the other guy wins, our country is going to hell. Let me demonstrate. 1992, Republicans said, Bill Clinton, look at his character. He's a draft dodger. He's sleeping around with women. If Bill Clinton wins, it's going to be the end of American values, the end of America. 2000, oh my God, if George Bush wins, it's the end of America. And Democrats said the same thing about John McCain and Mitt Romney. In fact, Bill Maher made a great point in one of his segments during the 2016 election. He said, you guys, we have a guy, Donald Trump, who really could destroy America. But we keep saying this with reasonable people like John McCain and Mitt Romney. So when we have somebody who really is dangerous, like a Donald Trump, we sound like Chicken Little. We sound like the boy who cried wolf. And now, of course, you have Republicans saying, oh my God, if the Democrats get in power, they said this about Obama, the Democrats get in power, it's the end of America. And even Joe Biden. Now, I'm on a lot of stock trading boards in Facebook and various other groups. And people are saying, this is what they're saying, oh my God, what are you going to do if the Democrats win the Senate and they get control over it? I mean, is everyone moving their money out of the stock market? And I had to respond, like, no. Joe Biden was vice president under Obama. In the first 2 years of that administration, Democrats controlled the House and the Senate, and the stock market went up just fine. Donald Trump gets elected in 2016. He gets inaugurated in 2017. Again, Republicans have the House, Senate, and the White House. The stock market went up. The stock market is not going to go up or down based on who's in the White House, who has Congress. I mean, they play a small part And maybe there's an initial reaction like the initial when things go in there, but at the end of the day, the stock market is going to go up or down based on Fed monetary policy, global economic conditions, and earnings reports. That's what's going to drive the stock market and the economy. Stock market went up when Joe Biden was vice president under Obama. I mean, each and every quarter, the economy grew. The stock market grew. Unemployment dropped. Same thing with Trump until, obviously, the coronavirus hit. So we've got to stop doing this. If the other guy gets in power, America is going to end. We've had Democrats, we've had Republicans, and the country went off just fine. But this rhetoric is very damaging, and each one's escalating. Everyone's trying to outdo themselves over the disaster that's going to come when the other guy gets in, and that is what Donald Trump exploited. I firmly blame him for what happened in the Capitol. His deliberate trashing of our election system and conspiracy theory and pandering, all of that led to what we saw. At the same time, they believe this because they've been filled with all this information about this. Oh my God, if the Democrats get in, we're going to turn the country into Venezuela. It ignores a lot of different things. Now, and they say, oh my God, look at the people want socialism. Well, the people in America really don't want socialism. There's two things that the people who are following the socialism crowd, the Bernie Sanders people, it's two things: healthcare and education. And I'll expand on those in another segment, but if you solve those issues, it doesn't mean they want socialism. It means like one party is talking about universal healthcare and free college education. The other party is offering nothing. So between the party offering something and the party offering nothing, they're going to the party talking about something. If Republicans want to win over these younger voters where healthcare and college is becoming more and more important, they got to offer a different solution. For example, a pure free market healthcare system. Maybe that's something we can offer, Republicans can offer. But you've got to be part of the discussion. People want to socialism. I work with a lot of millennials and Generation Y and these young folks coming in there. They want to be the next Zuckerberg. They certainly love capitalism. But there are two issues: healthcare and education. And yet we assume the worst. We assume that they're voting for Joe Biden. This was the rhetoric of this election. Oh my God, you're voting for Joe Biden? You want our cities to burn. Or, oh, you're voting for Donald Trump? You're a racist. This has got to stop. And we are all a part of it in that context. We need to start listening to people, because really, the people protesting over the summer with Black Lives Matter and the Trump supporters, there's a lot more in common that these folks have than you'd think. Education, lack of economics. That's really the thing. Economic access, economic opportunity. This is what gets people angry. You fix economics, you fix most of the issues in this country. It's easy. Well, not easy to do, but the problem, knowing what it is easy. It's actually doing it that's hard. For instance, broadband access. I was in West Virginia, saw a farm out there. The guy was selling beef, so I went to buy it. Well, the saving grace is my kids were running around the farm burning off energy to drive back home. So I was content the fact that the guy was going around the entire farm, walking around like this, trying to get reception because he didn't have any internet access to process my PayPal order because I wasn't carrying cash. So whose responsibility is it to ensure access to internet? You know, when you think of it like transportation, the Eisenhower interstate system allowed businesses to flourish because now there was a system to deliver your goods and services across the country. And therefore, I think instead of just relying on private companies, there has to be a government effort in this developing access of internet. Otherwise, people will be more and more left behind. And the people who are going to suffer at the lower end of the economic spectrum. The Rust Belt cities and states that have been dying for years. And that hurts minority communities. That hurts poor white communities. So all these issues are coming to the same. And you look at everything else. Where is all the drug epidemics breaking out? Poor areas. Underserved areas. Where do you see the most community-on-community violence among each people? Poorer areas. Where do you see the cops killing our citizens of all races? Poorer areas. It's not happening in my neighborhood. I have a very diverse community. There's no violence going on here. Economics solves all that, because in economic impoverished areas, there's more crime, more issues to deal with. A police officer is going to be more trigger happy in a violent area or a perceived violent area than a nice area. And nice areas are economically developed areas. U.S. soldiers, we don't kill innocent people in Germany and Japan and Okinawa because they're stable places. Iraq, Afghanistan, we kill innocents, unstable places. We're really easy at doing emotional stuff. Like, oh, let's take down a flag. Let's ban this. Let's take down statues. That's easy. how do we improve education? And oh, by the way, we see with the belief system the QAnon people have, we need to really address education. Because if we don't address that in critical thinking, that's going to be a problem. And the bigger problem in this country right now is we don't live in a data-driven society anymore. It's basically, what do I believe? Let me cherry pick the facts. Global warming. Well, I don't believe in global warming, so let me pick all the things that support that. That's how we do things now. And until we get to a point where we're actually willing to receive information, we aren't going to move forward. And we're not going to be in a position where we can receive information if we're not willing to listen. If we just simply label these Trump supporters as fascists and racists, we're going to shut them down. They're going to find other ways. If we ban them from Facebook and Twitter, they're going to find other forums like Parler, and suddenly they're in their own echo chambers, which makes them more and more dangerous. You keep the discussion in the open and you can talk to people. That's why on Facebook, even people who I think are just crazy, I'll respond to their posts, not because I'm going to change their mind, but all the people they follow, I might change their minds. And I've had people message me and say, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I was going to listen to this person, but you make sense. We've got to engage with people. There's a lot to unpack here, and I try to simplify a lot of things, and the fact is there's a lot of complex issues. That's why this video is running just at past 11 minutes right now. But we got to get to the right problem. And if we keep saying that the people who stormed there are fascists and racists, we're going to miss the mark. And yes, that is part of it. There are people who have joined that Trump coalition, but most people there are people that look at it like, I'm falling behind economically. I don't understand why. I don't feel like I belong. Who's the person I need to reach out to? Oh, I'm going to go to this guy. Trump exploited a lot of problem areas in this country. He exploited people who've not had anything. This is what happened in Bosnia, the former Yugoslavia. You had the peaceful people living peacefully for decades. City of Sarajevo, 80% of the different ethnic groups were intermarried. Economy crashes. No one knows why. And there comes Milosevic playing on that Serbian nationalism. It's these people's fault. And this exploits the anger, exploits the tension. And people who don't understand these things, they just watch their livelihoods disappear. They follow somebody on the white horse. It has happened in Nazi Germany, it happened in in Yugoslavia, and we're seeing some of that here. We need to understand what makes people tick. And again, these QAnon people, just like the Muslims on 9/11, they believe they're there a crusade to defend their homeland. They really believe they're the last bastion of hope for America. And it's going to take dialogue. There's no easy answer. This is going to be a long fight. And you know our enemies are going to be trying to exploit this. So these are just a few thoughts. Thanks for sticking around. It was a long video, a lot to unpack. I'd love to hear from you. What do you all think? I'd love to hear your voice. You think I'm wrong? You think I'm missing the mark? Let's have a dialogue, because if we can't have a dialogue, we aren't going to get there. It all starts with understanding people, understanding the issues, and not about apologizing for one's behavior. Well, our violence was okay because of this or that, or what about this? No, it's not. We need to unpack things, and we can't let leaders tear us apart. Because unfortunately, we do have leaders, specifically a leader, who was allowed to operate the way he has for way too long. And until we fix this, and until we communicate with each other, and we have open dialogue, and we acknowledge the real problem, the real thing, that what is really causing a beef with people, tensions are going to rise, and we're just going to keep seeing it. Thank you. Have a great day.